and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to have a business segment. We're talking to the General Manager of the Peninsula Town Center, Raymond Tripp. Welcome, Raymond. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for inviting me.
We're going to go back in time a little bit because you were here before Peninsula Town Center. You came to be the manager of the mall when it was an enclosed mall, and
Yes.
and when that's how people shopped. People would, spend the day in an enclosed mall. It was our 70s, 80s lifestyle trend.
True.
How old was Coliseum Mall, and what made you and your firm think about it was time to do something different?
Well, when we closed Coliseum Mall, it was coming up to 34 years of operations. It opened in 1973. The first phase, and in 1975 for the second phase. And at that time, it was one of the biggest shopping meccas on the peninsula.
Oh, absolutely.
And as time changed and consumer demands changed, the mall started to become less and less favorable. And so we had already been working with the city and also other entities in the community to try to find out what would be the best scenario for the future. And the Coliseum Central Business Improvement District, had been formulated. And being a partner in that, we sat down and went through a comprehensive plan for the district, which in that comprehensive plan was a suggestion of taking that enclosed mall and converting it into a mixed-use center. Now, it wasn't described exactly how we would do it, but it was just the concept in general.
Well, and the concept, it was a national concept. Like most of the people building new shopping centers were building them along an open air, you can get to one store at a time kind of model. You'd seen Short Pump, you'd seen, I go to Atlanta, and everywhere I go, there's a new center like that. So obviously this is happening nationally. But it's got to be a scary thing. You don't tear down an existing business that provides you with a good stream of revenue, even if it's declining a little bit. That's a big risk.
Yeah, it is a big risk, and but the owners of the Coliseum Mall were confident about the city of Hampton. You got to realize for so many years it had been a great facility that created a lot of revenue not only for the city but for the owners as well. And it just needed to sit down and be reinvented. And by using the input from our community through our master plan through the Coliseum Central, we were able to kind of kickstart our ideas. Not only that, but our partners at that time were out, and we had already built 3 other town centers with our partners, so we already kind of knew what these town centers would do. We just had to make sure that Hampton was the right place to do it.
Now, how did you go about figuring that out? Obviously, I'm a big booster of Hampton, but we're kind of in the middle, and that's Coliseum Central's kind of motto. But because you're in the middle, that means everybody on the fringes has also been developing retail concepts, and people could go anywhere. So why did you decide to stay and redevelop?
Well, the first thing was just because of what you mentioned, because the peninsula itself, as far as land goes, it was starting to be used up. There wasn't a lot of new land to develop on. And as the population grew in the peninsula, it starts to spread either east or west. And so in that reference, we had to do something to kind of regain our retail control. The mall at that point in the late 80s, early 90s, obviously had lost its luster. We were having trouble convincing the newest and the greatest retailers to come to Hampton because of the venue, not necessarily because of the city, but the venue wasn't what they were looking for. And retail is cyclical. It will change, and so therefore the property that the retailers are in are going to have to change as well. And therefore, that's why you see open air centers more now than you see enclosed malls. Doesn't mean that malls are going to die and go away, because there is a use for that, and some people enjoy still shopping that. But the newer trends are for mixed use and open air centers.
I know for me personally, and maybe this is the working mom kind of thing, I don't have time to stroll a mall and do all my shopping at once. I am looking for X, and I want to park near X and go in the door and get what I need and go back out an awful lot of the time. So, I have to feel like that played into it at some point.
Absolutely. There are 3 basic things that we looked at that we know that every consumer is looking for. First is selection. You got to have the right stores.
You absolutely do.
If we don't have the stores that you, the shopper, are looking for, you're not going to come to the center. Number two, you got to have convenience. We've got to make it convenient for the shopper. Because today, you just mentioned, the shopper today is so much different than they were in the early and the late 70s. In the 70s, it was easy for a shopper, and we're looking at mostly women because they're our demographic. And they would have time to stroll up and down the mall and bring the kids and do all that. Now we're so busy, you know, everybody's schedule is so tight.
Right,
and
right.
more women are working and a part of the income in the family now, so they don't have those hours to stroll the mall. They're looking for that shop. For instance, like you mentioned, they want to find a shop. They got to go get a dress or something for an event. You can pull right up in front of one of our stores, Talbot's, Chico's, Loft, jump out, go in, get what you're looking for, get back in your car and be back to work if you need to, or go home and help do the other roles that you're required to in the family. So the convenience factor is really important. And of course, today's environment, unfortunately, safety is always a concern. And this center was built with the understanding that safety was going to be one of the primary focuses that we would work on.
You know, it's funny, I guess I just take that for granted. And that's probably what you're saying, is that people won't come if they feel at all unsafe. But, I guess I felt pretty safe at Coliseum Mall when it was there, but especially now. I mean, the streets are very busy, it's bustling, you see the security folks.
Well, it's an effort that takes a lot of work. Clearly, we focus on our consumers. We want to make sure that they have easy access and it's convenient, and we want them to feel comfortable. But that's not done just by saying it. You've got to put programs in place, have teams and personnel that understand what security requirements are going to be needed. But it's also working with your local police department. And the City of Hampton has done an extremely good job working with the businesses to make sure that all the businesses know that the police division is right there. They're very proactive. They're engaged in what the retailers and the businesses are doing, and they offer them many different solutions and resources to help make their businesses run better.
Well, now, how do you feel your retail component stacks up now versus what it was?
Well, clearly it's a different day. The Peninsula Town Center is a whole different project than what the Coliseum Mall was. Coliseum Mall, like I said, in its earlier days, was one of the best shopping centers around. And even up until the day we closed it, it was still a great facility. It's just that we weren't able to lock in the retailers that we needed. So in order to do that, when we went to the national retailers, we said, well, what would we have to do to get you to consider our site? And they said, you have to update it. It has to be new. It has to be what's going now. And so a lot of that came into play when we made our decisions on turning it from the enclosed mall to an open environment like we have now.
I mean, I certainly, I have to say, will focus mostly on your women's retail stores, but there's a mix now and some new folks that really Hampton just never had before.
Right.
I mean, I looked up this morning and I thought, oh my gosh, I think I got my whole outfit at Peninsula Town Center. And, there's just so much more there, I think, for shoppers.
Well, anybody in the retail business will tell you 80% of your customers are the female shopper. Okay, even hardware stores.
Now, I see a lot of guys, though. They might not be the actual buying. Well, they might be ride-alongs or there for food.
If they do it, they should be walking with their wives anyway. But women do drive retail, and the decisions on making purchases are driven by the female also. Even if it's not directly, it's indirectly. And so therefore retail, when we talk retail, we're going to look at women's ready-to-wear, and that's why you see more offering in women's ready-to-wear than you do men. But we do have men stores, but they're not as many and multiple as the women's stores are.
Gotcha. Well, what about the restaurant offerings? I know that you've seen a few close already, which is probably disappointing, but I was looking at the national statistics, and something like more than 60% of restaurants close within their first 3 years. It is just a tough business, I suppose.
It's a very tough business. Number one, because to open a restaurant, you have to invest so much money in the front. The equipment is so much more expensive. To build a restaurant, it costs a lot more than it would a regular retail store. So that's your first problem. Then you've got also the fact that when you're feeding someone, you got to make sure the food is great, and you've got to have a good cook and a chef in the kitchen's got to run smoothly. And then there's also the factor of customer service. It's a one-on-one business where the person sitting down has a particular taste. If that food doesn't taste the way they're used to eating it, then they're going to not be happy with it. But also you've got the service aspect. It's really difficult because you're talking individual one-on-one service, which you don't have normally in retail business. So overall, those things together make restaurant business very complicated. But I will tell you, we have had some failures, but we've also had some very good success in replacing some of those failures. Another thing is we rushed quickly to get the center open, and we chose some restaurants. Maybe if we'd have sat back and thought about it a little bit more, we might not have put that particular restaurant in that location. So we're having to pay for that right now. But we've opened a lot of new restaurants. The menus have really enhanced. We've got a new Indian restaurant.
I know,
called Monsoons.
We go a lot, actually.
And I myself, I'll be honest with you, I was not a fan of Indian food, but I have now learned to grow and love it, and my whole family loves it.
You know, I will tell you a story. I go there a lot, but I have a son who's a vegan. And every time, the first 2 times we went, we would go through the menu and say, you know, what can he eat, what can he eat? And I noticed the third time we went back, they marked their menu with V's, so it was like, oh, this is great.
They're great operators. They really are tuned to their customer, and they're really trying to provide a service that most restaurants either don't or can't. And then we have Hayashi's, which also serves our sushi, which is a very well-run restaurant as well.
And they're both, and I wonder if this is something that might help, they're both local regional chains. They're not big national chains. And I think sometimes the big national chains are good because in our market, most people aren't from here. They're somewhere else. The national chain is familiar. You know, there's just an automatic draw. But those local regional folks can adapt to what we want and, you know, just provide something a little different.
Exactly.
It just be harder to get people in the door sometimes.
Yeah, specialized, yeah. But you're right. I mean, the fact that you mentioned the influence of our community, just sitting out talking in the lobby, and your guys, every one of those guys have been everywhere in the country. They're not just all from here.
Right.
And that's different. And so therefore, you're absolutely right. National names and national brands are more recognized and visited more because they know them. It's a hurdle,
I think, yeah.
And we're focusing on that too. Matter of fact, we're going to be announcing 2 new restaurants this year. One we're very excited about, and it'll take 2 of our existing restaurant space. So we'll be filling
I've been watching that. Yeah. You're not going to tell us today, though,
no,
right?
I can't tell you today.
Okay. You have to come back when you have an announcement to
I
make.
will be glad to. Yeah, we're excited about them. And then, of course, we brought in Bar Louie's, which took over the Mongolian Grill. And Bar Louie's has done a fabulous job. It is a bar, but it has excellent
food. They are busy.
Food. Their restaurant, their kitchen is very good. We've got Green Turtle for the guys who love, and families. I have to say family now. A lot of women are into the sports, just like guys are. And Green Turtle does a great job of giving them an environment where they can come and watch their favorite team and also have a good meal at the same time. We've got Mexican with Abuelos, which always does well.
And they have a skinny Rita.
Yeah,
it's just wonderful.
Exactly. And we have Jimmy John's for those people that want a quick sub. And Jimmy John's does a lot of delivery. So 20% of their business is delivery. And then we've got obviously Chipotle, which is probably one of the nation's fastest growing restaurant chain in America. And then there's Five Guys, which if you want a good hamburger, you can't beat those.
Yeah, I think it's if you want good fries,
exactly.
You can't beat
Well, fries
those.
are excellent. And you know where they come from as well. And then you've got Park Lane Tavern as well.
I'm going to ask you about that because Chipotle is, you know, kind of mostly local and organic. First of all, you guys opened at a time when the economy was kind of going downward, which had to be a huge hurdle. So that's one strike against you. But I do wonder if the gas prices were going up and also the sort of eat local, shop local movement, you know, may have countered some of that.
Well, you know, everything that affects the income of a family will affect the retail sales and restaurant sales. And we're aware of that. So what we do is we try to make the best offerings we can, as convenient and also as safe as we can. And we're also looking for newer restaurants. We still are looking for that one seafood restaurant. Anybody that's interested, please call us. We've been beating the streets trying to find someone that would have a good seafood menu. The idea of the center is we want to offer a different array of menus. We don't want all hamburger or all pizza.
Right.
So far we've got sushi, we've got Indian, we've got Mexican, we've got bar food, we've got the Park Lane Tavern, which is also a European pub
Yeah, and they did a
style.
little shift in their concept.
Yeah, they moved from the Brit
back.
to the European flavor, which gave them the opportunity to offer some more of their microbrews that come from Germany and Switzerland, not just from Britain. So that was a good move for them as well.
So what do you see going forward? Theoretically now, we're out of the recession, and I know the fiscal cliff is still there. It just got pushed back. But look out, maybe not 1 year, but 5 or 6 years. And what do you see for Peninsula Town Center, for Coliseum Central, and even for the city as a whole? Because I know you have a broader view than your particular backyard.
Well, for the Peninsula Town Center, what we're seeing in number one is that we've created a new urbanization feel, and that's why our apartment complex, which by the way, we don't talk a lot about that, but we have the Chapman, which has 158 apartments in it, one of the highest in the market, and we're staying 98% occupied, and this is our third year of operation with that. We also have office space, which we have over 115,000 square foot of Class A office space above the retail as well.
Yeah, it's
We
nice.
have Bryan and Stratton, which is a public college or a private college that has already got over almost 500 students enrolled, and they're getting ready. Once their nursing program is on, we could see that enrollment grow to 800. But the overall idea is to take the land that was former Coliseum Mall and maximize the use of it so that we can create an environment where all the public can come in, whether they're there to be entertained through our Cinebistro, which we have an awesome menu in it as well. The Cinebistro could be broken out as a restaurant.
It could be.
But also the bowling lanes, which are part of it, and they have a bar in there as well.
And the free things. I mean, you have outdoor concerts. I can't tell you, there's not a day when the weather's warm that I don't see little kids playing in that fountain.
Well,
and I know technically some of that's public space,
right,
but it's part of the complex as a whole.
But it has to be maintained by the property owners. And the thing is, we wanted to create a place where the families were welcome. And the idea was to offer so many varieties, such a big variety rather, that when you wanted to go and you really didn't know what you want to do, well, let's go to Peninsula Town Center. Oh, well, we can go bowling, we can go eat, we can go over there and shop. Or actually, if you have to work there, meet me there for dinner or meet me there for lunch. It also is a great opportunity for office tenants because there is so much to offer, not only for the office employees, but for those guests that come and meet there as well.
Right.
But the future is to continue the growth and of redevelopment. Coliseum Central was formulated almost 15 years ago for the purpose of trying to take that 1,800 square acre commercial district and go in and strategically redevelop it to the future. And Peninsula Town Center is the first stepping stone. The convention center came out of that master plan.
And they
the
work together
hotels,
so much. I mean, if you're at a convention, well, okay, maybe not you, but I would go shopping. That's what I would do in my off hours. And so that brings extra people in and also helps bring convention business in when you have that environment where there's lots of things to do.
And that was one of the things that we heard when we were doing our surveys. What do the conventioneers have to do in the evening? 90% of those people.
Or the parents of kids who are bringing
to the kids for the Boo Williams. They're looking for a place to eat and a place to shop. But all conventioneers have the evening off, and that's one thing the Convention and Visitors Bureau will tell you. They need something to offer to those conventioneers coming.
Right.
And that's part of how they sell the convention center. Look, we have this town center that has all these different variety of retail shops and restaurants that you can eat at and shop at while you're here in your off time. And they'll tell you that the number one thing they like to do is shop when they're here. So that's part of it as well. So it's not just about Hampton, but it's about who we can bring in also. And then the other idea is we want to go and continue the growth of redevelopment in some of our older neighborhood and strip centers and try to get them to come on board and increase their visibility by changing some of their designs as well.
I think that's, smart. And I think you've already seen the growth in traffic from Peninsula Town Center helping the center behind it.
Exactly.
And bringing more people to come shop. We need to wrap up real quickly, but I was going to say redevelopment in Hampton is so important, and there is a certain amount, because that's all the land we have, except
right.
for a lot of office potential in the Center Parkway
right.
area. Most of what we have is going to have to be redeveloped, and it does require some public investment, typically for the streets and the infrastructure and things like that. And that happened with Peninsula Town Center, but the bulk of that investment truly was private.
Right.
Now, there are some people who say, oh, Hampton spends too much on the Coliseum area. They get more than their share, but part of that is the investment for the return. I would just ballpark, no, I can't even guess, but I feel certain that Coliseum Central is the vast majority of the retail.
80% of the retail sales tax comes from the district for the city.
Yeah, and so that then gives the city money to reinvest
to the general fund,
in the neighborhoods or some of the other things that aren't income producing, but that help sustain us as a community.
And they are, in the city, the idea of the city working with the developers and the private owners helps come up with better plans.
Well, I don't think people understand that either.
Yeah,
it's one of the things I didn't know before I got to the city.
Exactly. It's not always about money. It's about investing time, sitting down with the developer and or the property owner and saying, okay, what's the best use of this land? The city does a lot of that. A lot of people don't realize how much time the city works with the private owner to figure out what's the best use. And it doesn't mean they have to give them money, but it gives them ideas, gives them resources. And I mean, we're constantly getting calls from the city. Hey, I heard that so-and-so's looking for retail space. Do you have something available for them? And immediately we connect with that person and try to figure out if we can do a lease with them.
And it all really gets to the master plan process.
Absolutely.
In which the business owners and the residents say, and the market studies, because if you're the businessman. If you don't have true business because it needs to be there, then it's not going to succeed. So you look at all those forces and say, what belongs here? How can we make it be what will be successful? And what is good for the community.
And that's what makes Hampton a good community, because the city has always been proactive, even before we made the change at the town center. I've sat down many times with economic development, and he's also planning, and I go to him, guys, what can we do to make Coliseum a better place? And the ideas and the thoughts and the conversations help lead us to making some other decisions that obviously is what we have now. But the city has been proactive a long time ago. This is not, they didn't just start doing this. They've been doing it. What you're seeing is is the fruits of the labor in the Peninsula Town Center. Also, you're starting to see that same type of cooperation with downtown. They're trying to reinvent their master plan as well to figure out, okay, what does the public want? And they've also opened the doors for the public to make input, which is also helpful.
That's one of the things I get excited about. Of course, that's my job, but getting people to participate and letting them know it really does matter. We need to wrap up, but I want you to come back, because really there's nothing I'd rather talk about than shopping.
Well, we like that too.
I'm sorry to admit that, but it's true. Well, dining, shopping and dining. Put both of those in and I'm there.
Well, we work, shop, live, and play, okay?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Raymond.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about the Peninsula Town Center, which is one of the big economic engines for the city of Hampton. Thank you.